Today's topic is, gun control is a crime and those who enforce it are criminals. The recent school shooting in Winder, Georgia by a disturbed kid named Colt Gray, proves my point: gun control kills people. Allow me to explain why this is so. We know that Colt Gray's father gave the 14-year-old kid a firearm as a Christmas gift, months after he had posted online threats. We know he was previously investigated by the worthless and corrupt FBI. And we also know that school officials were warned by his mother. Did the unconstitutional Brady Bill registration scheme protect these children? It protects no one. The government brags about stopping certain people from purchasing a firearm, but who's to say those people didn't already have a dozen other firearms? Who's to say they would have committed a violent crime with it? And who's to say they can't steal one? Let's face it, if you want your children protected from school shootings, take them out of government schools and put them in a private or Christian school. It's in government schools where kids are bullied. It's where pimple-faced pubescent kids are lured into violence, drugs, and immorality. If you don't want your children protected, then continue supporting politically motivated gun confiscation policies that don't work. Barack Hussein Obama and others deceitfully label them common sense laws. They will define what is common sense and hope you don't have the common sense to notice that it's all bullshit. Today, people can download plans to make their own guns with 3D printers. Fact is, AR-15 style rifles are less deadly than a shotgun blast to the head or chest. And you don't need a high-capacity magazine to kill fish in a barrel. Nor do you need a gun. Anyone can bring a Molotov cocktail into a classroom and kill everyone. Nothing can stop a crazed killer except someone else with a gun. Teachers should be required to have a firearm and know how to use it. If they refuse, they should be fired. My preference is to simply close all government propaganda schools and rely on home schooling or private schools. Another point. When I was going to high school, male students kept a deer rifle in their truck. There were no mass shootings, or any violence except an occasional fist fight. What changed? Read Lex Green's article, Why Are Kids Killing Kids? The link is in the description below. My argument is that gun control kills because it focuses on the tool rather than a solution to the problem. Gun control, aka infringements on the right to keep and bear arms, is also a crime under the Second and 10th Amendments. It violates the natural right to individual and collective self-preservation. See Title 18 U.S.C. Section 241 and 242. I have consistently pointed all this out in my blogs and in my book, Ban Assault Bananas. Fact, you have an absolute right to own firearms of any kind. In Ban Assault Bananas, I classified our firearm rights into two groups, the right to life and the right to resist tyranny. Number 1, the right to life precedes all other rights. No government has lawful authority to decide whether you have a right to life. And no government has authority to infringe on the means of preserving your life. This means the government cannot lawfully ban high-capacity magazines and semi-auto firearms when you may face multiple assailants and home invaders. Number 2, the right to resist tyranny encompasses the right to personal and collective defense. This means you cannot be denied the right to have the same firepower as the government. This includes the right to possess machine guns, silencers, and all other implements necessary to protect your rights from an oppressive government. Judge Andrew Napolitano agrees, and I quote, "Thus, your right to be alive, to think as you wish, to say what you think, to publish what you say, to worship or not, to associate or not, to shake your fist in the tyrant's face by petitioning the government, the right to defend yourself and repel tyrants by using, and carrying, the same weapons as the government does. These are your rights. We also have a right to be left alone, to own property, to travel or to stay put. These are natural aspects of human existence that come from our humanity, and for the exercise of which all rational persons yearn." Close quote. We've seen the government ruthlessly murder innocent men, women, and children because adults exercise their right to personal and collective defense. I am referring to the Ruby Ridge and Waco massacres and others not so well publicized. In Ruby Ridge it was to enforce an unconstitutional federal law requiring registration of sawed-off shotguns. In Waco, it was a publicity raid to enforce unconstitutional federal laws requiring registration of machine guns. Does the failure to register a firearm justify the mass murder of entire families? And for what purpose? Any semi-auto can be converted to full auto by the simple expedient of removing the sear and welding the firing pin open. The firearm will continue slam firing until the magazine is empty. I pointed this out in my website blog, A Chicken in Every Pot and a Bump Stock in Every Home. The government's armed attack on the group resulted in the deaths of 76 Branch Davidians, including 28 children in David Koresh. In total, the 51-day siege resulted in the deaths of 4 federal agents and 82 Branch Davidians. The late not-so-great rogue warrior Richard Marcinko labeled them wackos at Waco. Not since Hitler has anyone justified the murder of wacko people. Naturally, no federal agents/criminals went to prison for this, despite the fact that the fire was started with kerosene and hay to burn them alive. I have personal knowledge of this and exposed it in my writings. In my case, SWAT team snipers had surrounded my house ready to kill everyone. Based solely on suspicion, they made an unlawful arrest on a bogus warrant, deposited me in the drunk tank for 3 days of Soviet-style secret detention, and conducted an unconstitutional general search of my home to steal everything that was not nailed down. The crooked judge said the Second Amendment didn't apply in his court. As it turned out, neither did any of the other amendments in the Bill of Rights. I lay all this out in my eye-opening book, They Left No Crime Uncommitted. Here's another point. On April 29, 2024, 4 law enforcement officers were fatally shot while attempting to arrest an individual on suspicion of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Governor Roy Cooper stated that, "Our hearts are with the families and co-workers of officers in today's brutal attack, including 2 State Department of Adult Correction officers working with the U.S. Marshals Task Force who were shot and killed." But who attacked whom? I don't know what crimes this person may have committed, but criminalizing the possession of a firearm by a felon is an unconstitutional violation of his or her right to self-preservation. Revealingly, the felony firearm possession laws make no distinction between violent and non-violent offenders. If felons are that dangerous, then maybe they should not be released from prison. But, once released, they have an inviolate right to defend themselves and their families with a firearm. Anyone, including government officials, who violates a person's right to life is a criminal under both state and federal laws. Look at it logically. Gun laws not only violate the right to life, and the Second and 10th Amendments in federal cases, but they also violate the Due Process Clause in the 5th and 14th Amendments. What they do is punish you for something you might do, as opposed to what you have done or were attempting to do. There is no limit to might and maybe crimes. An example of a might and maybe crime is the abominable red flag laws. In a recent Supreme Court case, only Justice Clarence Thomas voted against the majority in Rahimi v. United States. It involved a challenge to 18 U.S.C. 922 G8 which prohibits someone subject to a domestic violence protection order from possessing a firearm. Such protection orders can be based on nothing but lies by a vengeful spouse or a hostile neighbor. These laws allow officers to kick in your door in the middle of the night to confiscate your firearms, with the risk of killing everyone inside. Hundreds of YouTube videos show that government agents have a propensity to shoot first and ask questions later. Once these red flag laws and other gun confiscation schemes are fully implemented by the Democrats, you can expect dozens more Waco and Ruby Ridge massacres. Think about it. Government agents have already killed entire families to enforce unconstitutional laws banning sawed-off shotguns and fully automatic firearms. And you are a fool if you think they won't kill you and your children to confiscate a banned semi-auto AR-15 style rifle. Even the rumor that you have one will encourage them to kick your door in. Under the guise of protecting you, they plan to disarm everyone and leave us unprotected. There is no middle ground and no compromise possible with government tyrants. If you are summoned to a jury trial on a firearms possession case, you may want to think twice about convicting a defendant for exercising his right. The defendant may or may not be a horrible person, but the greater need is to stop government tyranny by voting defendants not guilty on any firearms charge.